teachers of Reddit, have you ever had a student try to seduce you? What happened? Serious, NSFW. Yes. Finally the chance to tell this. I'm a female high school teacher. And once during my second year of teaching, I was 24. One of my male students came in before school. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. He seemed nervous. "Sure," I said. He pulled a chair up in front of my desk and sat down. "I'm in love," he said. He then grabbed my hand and started to stroke my palm with his index finger. I yanked my hand back and may have screamed at the same time. "I'm much older than you," I said. "It doesn't matter. I have a boyfriend." "It doesn't matter. Leave and go with me." No. I finally got him to leave my room and then immediately ran down the hall to tell the school social worker, my department chair, and every teacher friend I had, just so I couldn't get nailed on it later. It was not the most serious seduction attempt ever, but it took me by complete surprise and was probably the most awkward conversation of my life. And as a teacher, I have a lot of awkward conversations. I teach high school kids. I'm young compared to most other teachers at my school. I get loads of cheeky comments, questions. The best one was, "Miss, I can't come to that detention you set me on Wednesday. I can do Friday though." "My place? Oh. You mean your parents' place? Sorry. I don't babysit." I am a music teacher and I was running an after-school a cappella group. One of the girls was very cool and extremely different, in a good way. She would stay after to clean up and help with anything she could. We got along great. She graduated. We became friends. We started a relationship. I got fired. We're together now and I couldn't be happier. You got fired because you started a relationship with a student who graduated? Or you got fired for an unrelated event that you just happened to mention? The girl was 18 and graduated. Seemed logical that I could start dating her because the law makes it very clear that she is a consenting adult who I am no longer professionally affiliated with. However, there was a small clause in the school policy stating that basically the student has to officially be attending classes at college before it is okay to start a relationship. Unfortunately for me, I was never spoken to about this policy and here I am without my job. Student taught in middle school band and after a few months one of the clarinet players broke out of a pack of giggling girls to ask me if I had a girlfriend and what my favorite thing to do on a date was. She was so visibly nervous I felt bad for her. Gave me some flashbacks of my incredible awkwardness at that age. AWW. That's kind of really adorable. I teach middle school, so I have had a few boys with crushes. One boy would use his lunch money and buy me a cup of coffee and bring it to me. Had to call home and it was a funny awkward parent conversation. Another boy would always tell his teachers he had lessons, I'm a music teacher, and come down to see if I needed help. Again. Had to send him back and talk to his parents. The most awkward and uncomfortable one was this boy viola player, Steven. He would compliment me and always say borderline inappropriate things. I talked to guidance but I was one of the few teachers that could get him to do anything. So they would ask me to try and mentor him. I called home, but no parents around. Just grandparents who spoke Spanish. Then he started trying to put his arm around me and be uncomfortably close to me. I had to go to the guidance counselor again and get them involved because it was bad. He couldn't switch classes because I'm the only orchestra teacher. And he was actually quite a good player. One day he comes to lessons and says, "Well, I'm a man now, MRS. Iramisil 919. Come sit next to me and let me show you." Welp. I had to ask him to leave. Again guidance meetings because I could never get in touch with any parents. Turned out he went to a party and got a blowjob by 2 girls at the same time and was bragging about it. Finally, had a meeting with parents, principal and a translator. He was suspended for the rest of the year since I was not the only person he was inappropriate with. Mind you, the kid is in 8th grade. So like 13. He is now in jail at 19 for rape. It's really sad actually. I'm fairly young and teach middle schoolers, so the most that ever happens is me catching them looking at my butt when I'm writing on the board or trying to look down my shirt when I help them with a math problem. It's really awkward for me. But I know they're in an awkward stage, so I don't call them out. Usually after I catch them they look away quickly and don't do it again. Haha, this suave bro in 10th grade was like, hey miss, do you want a kiss, and offered me a Hershey's Kiss from a bag of chocolate. And I was all, no candy in the classroom. So he said, how about a date? Kid legitimately had a bag of kisses and a bag of dates with him. This is my father's story, so probably couldn't happen now like it did in the 70s, but at my father's high school graduation, the entire class knew of one student that had a crush on a female teacher. She had skipped a few grades and become a teacher early, so she was about 6 years older than him. At the graduation ceremony, the teachers were all lined up to shake each student's hand. This particular student went across shaking their hands, then planted a hand on each cheek and full mouth kissed the teacher on which he had a crush. It was considered a joke and everyone laughed as he received a light slap for the prank. Today the two are married with 3 children. This happened to me several times with the same girl. She was constantly failing and at the end of the 6 weeks would become flirty. Her biggest thing would be to ask if there was any way she could pass the 6 weeks and then press her breasts against my arm. I would ask her to get off of me and she would comply. Nothing came of it. She was a vile, disgusting young woman who I was continually repulsed by. I documented the incidents, reported them to my AP and principal, and asked that she be removed from my class. But nothing was ever done. The school I worked at was low performing and attendance was a huge issue, so they weren't about to suspend her. I teach 11th and 12th grade. When I first started teaching, I was 22. So my students were only 4-6 years younger than me. I had one girl, a senior, stop me in the hallway and say, "Emma, name, I want you. And I will have you." I just sort of laughed and walked away. Another time, the same girl was being very loud at play auditions. So I poked my head through the curtain and said, "Hey, why are you being so loud?" Her response, "Why are you so physically attractive?" The other teachers helping out with the play were female and couldn't stop laughing. I was kind of irked, because that seemed like a double standard. Both times it occurred, I reported it to my principal right away. Another female student would routinely unbutton the top of her blouse and come to my desk and lean over to talk to me. She's a stripper now. Actually invited me to come see her strip. Again. Reported to principal right away. My funniest one, though, was this 19-year-old Russian exchange student. I walked into my classroom and she was sitting at my desk, in my chair, with my pointer. I asked her what she was doing, and right in front of the class she replied, with this coy smile, "I'm playing with your stick." The class thought it was hilarious, and in hindsight, it was. But goddamn, it was awkward. Still, I've noticed that the female students never receive any consequences for this which is odd. My first year, I was 23. I taught seniors. I always heard talks about how every girl at the high school had a crush on me, especially my actual students. Well, all year long I hear about how so and so has a crush on you, and was always worried about being approached by one of my students once they started to turn 18, and coincidentally, not being sarcastic, I became single around this time as well. Well, all year long nothing really occurred other than subtle flirting until prom season started to rear its head around the corner. During class, one of the more popular attractive girls raised her hand and asked me randomly, "What kind of car do you drive?" and I respond, "Why do you want to know?" I usually respond to dumb irrelevant questions during note taking because sometimes it may lead to a good example. I taught Gufti Khan, and she responds with, "Oh, I just wanted to know what kind of car I was going to get picked up for prom in." And I kind of react as if a huge tsunami wave was coming toward me and I'm trying to formulate my plan of attack. Just stand there and take the hit? Try to run away? Try to dive under and hope I can hold my breath long enough. etc. So after a few seconds of students' laughter I respond, I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to take a student to prom. And she responds with, well, I'm legal so it shouldn't be a problem. And that's when it really hit the fan. Every single guy in that class had a crush on her and they start to laugh and holler, do it up, that's what's up, and so forth. I finally tell her once the class settles down, no, it's not appropriate. But if you really want to go with someone that works here, ask the principal instead. He'll hook it up with free entrance and pick you up in his stretchy yellow limo. Bus. The class busts out laughing and I quickly go back to the lesson. Honestly, that was probably the roughest 5-6 minutes of my life. I teach 6th grade now. So glad that isn't an issue now. Yep. A couple girls tried that it on me. Low cut shirt. Touchy feely. I'll do anything for a better grade dart. Nothing happened. I just glared and said studying is a good way to get a better grade. I've heard that a good reply when they say they will do anything is to ask, really? Anything? Would you consider studying? It's a joke. But I mean it as a serious way to respond. What I wanted to say was I had enough 16-year-old titty when I was 16. Get the duck out of my face, but I gotta be professional. A girl once took my phone and put it between her breasts. I didn't know how to respond. I was merely an intern. Same girl put cute as evaluation of my teaching. Awkward. A friend had it worse. A girl went completely crazy over him. She started crying and explicitly told him she wanted to have sex with him. He tried to calm her down and talk her to stop crying. Didn't work. He had to get the principal involved in the end. Both girls were 15. I teach elementary school. So I've never had a student seriously try to seduce me. But I'm a woman in my early 20s and sometimes a boy in my class will have a crush on me. And it will be hilariously obvious. A 5th grader once wanted to ask me if I had a boyfriend. But he had his friend do it instead because he was too embarrassed. Edit. This wasn't an intentional Billy Madison reference. The children I've experienced this with were all actually 8-10 years old. Old oil rules. I've been teaching for a few years. I'm young and not hideous, so I get a lot of come-ons. Though to be honest, they are more sexual harassment than come-ons. Intended to embarrass rather than seduce. But one boy in my class keeps hanging round my room at break and lunch and asking for books and plays in French to read. I think he might have a crush. He told me my eye makeup was pretty today. It was. Conversely, I had a teacher in school who tried to seduce me. He once told me in class I has a husky voice and would be well suited to working on a phone sex line. What a guy. I've seen some female teachers get it on. My room neighbor said she wrote a kid up for telling another that he'd do her. I had a student, good looking girl. Definitely knew her looks were an asset. She came up to my desk during work time. I have a 70%. You do? Yeah? You didn't know. I didn't care. She was a pain in the ass and I'm not afraid to show it. I definitely deserve a B. Leans forward with hands on my desk. You do. 7-second silence. Me staring with disdain. Go sit down. And get it. Had a student leave her phone on the final exam of a senior level finance course. We went out a few times. She was cool. We are still friends. NBD. That was the only one I acted upon. Other than that, I get about 1 or 2 lady students per semester I teach ask me out or try to seduce. Nowadays I assign seats and put those types in the back of the class. So the rest of the class can't see them flashing you. Right? You get me. I'm not a teacher. But now that I look back, my female maths teacher would always wear low-cut tops and lean on my desk with both arms. Do you have any idea how hard it is to focus on my maths book when there's a set of jubblies 6 inches away from my level? I'm not a teacher, but I had a year-long crush on my 11th grade band teacher. We chatted on ICQ and I sent her so many flirty pictures and messages. She was around 28 and lonely in a rural hell. I remember her once saying, "I only wish you were at least 22. Such a shame. She couldn't stay the entire school year because of the terrible pay, but I helped her move out of her place after she resigned. She made me chicken nuggets and we slow danced to Duran Duran on that last day I seen her. It was nice. Glad I got to say goodbye."